What's good, everyone? Hopefully I caught you at a good time, cause Marvel Rivals HumanTorch aka Jonathan Storm has been quite a menace in the game so far. He can keep the whole team back from pushing by himself with some insane firepower. His primary fire hits hardest up close, and he has an amazing skill for diving in like a full-on superhero for a devastating finishing blow, which can also be used for some amazing movement for getaways. Being mindful of his squishiness, he can spread some very decent sustaining damage over time with his secondary fire. He'll create some serious anxiety for the other team. I got some amazing tips that'll help snag those knockouts coming up, so do consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy Marvel Rivals, and be a hero and hit that like button on this video. Let's go! Johnny Storm's Fire Cluster primary attack has the potential to two-shot pretty much every healer in the game in the right conditions. His primary attack works like a shotgun where the closer you are, the more effective the damage will be. He essentially has infinite ammo in that he does not have to reload. You can pretty much fire forever with the caveat that he'll shoot slightly slower once his flame charges are below 1. It's really not that big of a deal as the slower attack speed is quite minimal, and letting off the attack button for a couple of seconds will get you right back to normal attack rate. So remember to not be shy and just hold that trigger down as long as you want. Just let off the throttle every once in a while. Johnny's incredible routine of interchanging between his primary attack and secondary attack is a deadly and simple combo. Blazing Blast has a max of 3 charges that regenerates tastefully quick. With an easy to manage cooldown, the HumanTorch can spam this attack very frequently. This handy ability is best used by hurling it into a crowd on the floor because it will leave a lingering blast charge on the ground that will damage enemies nearby, thus leaving an area of damage over time. It's incredible because multiple blast charges will stack its damage within the same area. Just try to aim these with at least a tiny bit of distance apart, because there's a lead-up ability that will supercharge the effectiveness and sustained damage over time, which I'll talk about in just a sec. Do remember that hitting a wall with Blazing Blast will not leave a blast charge on the floor or the wall, which means foregoing a bunch of potential damage that the charge can give the game and to your stats. So even though the HumanTorch is so incredibly squishy and can get knocked out super fast, he also does perform the best up close to his enemies. As a duelist class that needs to keep an eye over the entire battlefield, Johnny can be one of the best at poaching last hits as he uses his flaming Meteor attack to dive right into the fray for the finishing blow. We all know by now, as just previously mentioned, that his primary attack works like a shotgun, and hitting all your pellets or projectiles will cause the most damage. So comboing his flaming Meteor dive attack for that superhero landing, and then following up with some serious DPS from his fire cluster will be his #1 deadly combo. Alright, now as promised about supercharging his Blazing Blast secondary attack, Jonathan Storm the HumanTorch can create a Pyro prison, which is essentially a small firewall that he can connect his blast charges with. Each Blazing Blast attack that leaves a remnant of fire on the ground will also act as a relay point when the HumanTorch activates or uses his Pyro prison ability. This amplifies all sustained damage over time from his blast charges with this combo. If the HumanTorch had the option to turn on auto sprint, I would. His plasma body ability lets him sprint or simply fly at an increased rate, bearing a stamina bar that regenerates at a modest pace. Although you can't use it while attacking or using other abilities, its omnidirectional boost of speed makes it super handy to find better placement around the map in just the right time, and to make your getaway into a pit stop before getting back into the race. If you're making your escape or tactical retreat, remember to try and do it in a zigzag or unpredictable way with your movement to avoid lethal damage. Okay, there's a reason why Johnny Storm is called the HumanTorch, and it's because he can turn into a Supernova himself. Once he activates his ultimate ability, the only thing he has to do is essentially hold the secondary attack button down. He'll have infinite charges for this momentary upgrade to Blazing Blast as it leaves firestorm tornadoes everywhere. It's an incredible ability to spam, which leaves columns and pillars of fire to block, zone, and push back the enemy team. Players using HumanTorch in his Supernova state should definitely consider hurling as many firestorms towards the backline and enemy healers as much as possible. But of course, if clumps of enemies are together, it's best just to huck these firestorms into the fray to confuse and cause some serious anxiety for your opponents. Now for some delightful twists, the HumanTorch actually has a couple different team-up abilities. One that you would totally expect being the brother of Invisible Woman, and another team-up ability that is just unexpected because you don't ever really see these two characters together in the movies or comics. So one of them would be the United Siblings ability, which will grant Johnny Storm a bit of enhanced defense for a short duration when Invisible Woman is on the team. He can activate it anytime he wishes, and should definitely consider doing so just before he uses his flaming Meteor dive attack, and for the unlikely pair, which is with the lowest pick rated hero, Storm. The only thing I could see to consider any sort of affinity these two heroes have with each other would be their command over an element, because Storm's lightning powers and Johnny's pyro powers can combine for an amazing passive that amplifies Storm's ultimate and the HumanTorch's tornadoes that make them into a large fiery hurricane with comboing elemental and enhanced damage. The HumanTorch can potentially have two team-up abilities active in the game, with one being a defensive and the other being an offensive one. Okay, so in summary, Jonathan Storm the HumanTorch is best used up close and personal for the most damage, but bearing in mind his squishiness. He's got good mobility to sprint around omnidirectionally to duck out of battles when needed, and can get back into battles super quick by literally diving in headfirst with his flaming meteor. Definitely keep tabs on every enemy hero during team battles with an eye in the sky, and don't be afraid to dive right in with your combos to get those last hits. Utilize his Blazing Blast and Cluster attacks interchangeably to take advantage of the quick cooldowns that his secondary attack has. Try to aim for enemies on the ground as it'll leave blast charges to work in some extra DPS. You can supercharge the blast charges on the ground by connecting them with his Pyro Prison for enhanced area of effect and damage. Pop off his ultimate anytime groups or hordes of enemies are holding the line, because his firestorms will do an amazing job at intimidating and poaching kills. Marvel Rivals has still been an enjoyable game with all the amazing updates and changes so far. Do subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Marvel Rivals, and remember to be a hero and shoot that like button, especially if you found this video helpful or was just entertained. Thank you, and I'll land with y'all again next time.